Long ball is going to go for a touchdown. The game's over. Webster Slaughter.
Beckham will go for the score. Unbelievable.
45-40. Run, William, run. He's got blockers in front. 5. Touchdown. Joshua Cribbs turns disaster into a score.
Sight wants it all on this one for Logan, and he is there.
Jim Brown to the 30. Jim Brown is going to go in for another touchdown.
The Cleveland Browns select Baker Mayfield.
Wow. It is Baker Mayfield.
I woke up feeling dangerous.
Hello, Cleveland. Welcome to another episode of the 1085 Gridiron Podcast. We are here to go over the Browns' 32-28 loss to the Seattle Seahawks today. I have my co-host Jack McCurry with me. I'm not going to introduce him right at this moment. Instead, Jack, I am going to give you a complete open floor because you said that you wanted it, so have at it.
I just feel so bad for all the people that have spent their hard-earned money, you included, Anthony, on season tickets and anybody that just bought tickets to go to today's game, because that was, and it's been that way throughout the homestand so far this year, just bad football. I mean, we had such high expectations, and, you know, the Browns came out and, you know, they started off hot, and I was thinking, like, today is going to be the day. Then as we get towards the end of the first half, it started spiraling back, and I was at work during the first half, and I looked at one of the residents that I take care of, and I said, they don't make this easy, do they? And he goes, no, they don't. And lo and behold, down the stretch, it just slowly slipped away. Part of it was the officiating crew, but part of it was just the Browns that keep shooting themselves in the foot, and it's getting irritating at this point. Like, and I know, like, there's a lot of football left. I know they're going to get this fixed just because the players want it. I can tell that the coaches want it, but it just seems we keep taking one step forward and then take 10 steps back, and it gets frustrating at times, but I do realize this is a game. I'm not even playing in the game, but it sometimes just really sucks that we spend 3 hours a Sunday living in such misery when there's far more things in the world to be worried about.
Yeah, you know, even after everything that went on in that just bizarre and weird third quarter, this was still a field goal game, and you know the Browns had certainly an opportunity to win this game. The Seattle wasn't, you know, grabbing this game fully. You know, they still let the Browns be in it, and you know, if the Seahawks capitalized on all the Browns' mistakes, it would have ended up like the Tennessee game. But the Browns were able to stay in it. Say what you want about the Browns' defense, but I'm not saying only holding Russell Wilson at 32 points, but for the most part, being able to contain him, really only letting him beat him with his legs on that touchdown run. You know, this team was really fighting, and I thought that they were able to show the NFL and other teams that, you know, it doesn't matter who you are, they'll fight with you, but the mistakes just continued to pile up on top of the officiating thing. I'm not one to sit here and constantly blame officials for stuff, but that third quarter and some of the calls that were made, the blindside block that wasn't, the Jarvis Landry catch that should have been a touchdown, you know, it's tough. It really is tough, you know, especially when you are not playing well. You don't need additional help in trying to beat yourselves. And when you compiled everything on top of each other, it led to the Browns blowing that 20-6 lead that they had. And when they didn't get the ball in the end zone at the end of the first half with the interception, Seattle took it down and scored. And then getting the ball back at the start of the second half, and they were able to score to make it 20-18. You knew that the mood of the place absolutely changed, and you were just sitting on pins and needles with knowing that the Seahawks were going to be in this game the rest of the game, and unfortunately, they pulled away late.
Yeah, that end of the first half, I mean, we're up 20-12, and we're marching down the field, and even Daryl Johnson said, slow down. You do not need to rush it. They had I think there was a minute and a half left on the clock, and Baker goes out, and he threw a good ball to Landry, but Griffin, undercut him and was able to get a hand in there. Landry probably should have caught it still. I mean, I've watched it several times, and he should have hauled it in, but he didn't, and the interception happened, and it was reminiscent of last week against San Francisco. The Browns were building momentum. They would have been 14-10, and then Callaway can't haul the ball in, and San Francisco intercepted it, took it, and then ultimately scored a touchdown, and it became 21-3 instead of 14-10. So the Browns just consistently keep shooting themselves in the foot, and you had a 14-point lead today. Nick Chubb was running great against one of the top run defenses in the league. Second week in a row, he ran great against San Francisco too. But this offensively, we keep shooting ourselves in the foot for creating turnovers or forcing turnovers, and then the teams take advantage of it. It was San Francisco last week, and it was Seattle this week.
Yeah, good teams take advantage of turnovers. The Browns have kind of struggled in that aspect. But let's before we get into all the negative stuff, let's look at the positives here heading into the bye week, and maybe by the time we get to the negatives, we'll maybe feel a little bit better. But the offense bounced back to start off this game by scoring 4 touchdowns. Obviously, they turned the ball over 5 times, but getting they had over 300 yards in the first half, and you thought that being able to move the ball consistently against the Seattle defense was something that we talked about on the pregame show that they were going to be able to do. They were able to move the ball. They did a good job running it. Baker was, despite his interceptions, and we'll talk about those individually in a minute, but despite his interceptions, I thought that the passing game, there's more flow to it. That touchdown to Ricky Seals-Jones was a beauty, but being able to move the ball, the receivers, there were drops, there were tip balls, but getting those guys involved early was nice, and Chubb over 120 yards again this week. He just continues to be a bright spot of this Browns offense. Were you surprised that they were able to consistently move the ball against Seattle? I know we had talked about that. That was one thing that they were going to be able to do, but were you surprised that they were able to pretty much keep that up for the entire game?
On the ground, yeah, because, we looked at it. We looked at the numbers. Seattle's been a tough run defense, and I said up front there was going to be a tough task for the offensive line, but I thought the offensive line played well. Yeah, there was penalties. Hubbard, Robinson were called for holding a few times. But, on the ground, I thought they played really well. The passing game, despite the turnovers, you've seen a lot of the quick reads, the quick throws by Baker. He was getting the ball out quickly today. Even when he was forced to scramble and improvise, I thought he did great. The offensive line did great and buying Baker a little time. The one play, Ziggy Ansah came after him. Baker was able to elude him, then cut back to the left and find Callaway for a first down. So I thought the flow of the offense was good, but like you said, ultimately the turnovers just really bit us. But I thought the offense was playing well. It was good to see Odell get back into it. Letting him, just throwing him on those quick slants and then letting Odell, be that playmaker we all know he is. It was good to see. It was good to see him get back into it. The only thing that was weird to me was Rashard Higgins, and I know we were going to talk about it, but we'll go ahead and just bring it up. He was active. Everybody thought he was going to play. I don't remember seeing him on the field at all today. And then he told Josina Anderson after the game, quote, "I thought I would play today, and I don't know why I didn't." So that was weird. But, yeah, like I said, the offense was in a good flow. Good to see they're keeping Ricky Seals-Jones in the offense. He's a playmaker, no doubt about that. Even when Njoku comes back, Seals-Jones has created a role in this offense, and maybe down the stretch, once Njoku comes back, Seals-Jones slides into that Darren Fells role that was there at the end of the last season.
Yeah, and what it's going to allow you to do is, use two tight ends. I know the blocking from Njoku and Seals-Jones isn't the best, but having those two guys out there at the same time, being able to run 12 personnel with two solid tight ends that can catch the ball and make plays will be beneficial to this team. I'm curious to see how Kareem Hunt affects all that. I don't know if you'll see Nick Chubb and Hunt out there at the same time, but you could see some 22 personnel, two running backs, two tight ends. Once everybody is back and ready to go, but that's still quite a ways away from happening. But Seals-Jones continues to impress me. Like I mentioned earlier, the route that he ran on his touchdown catch, you could just see from where I was sitting how that opened up right away, and he was able to walk into the end zone for that touchdown. Nick Chubb, I don't know how much more we could say. He's just been consistent, really solid. He did fumble the ball today on that screenplay, but two more touchdowns, 120 yards against a defensive front that is really good. They're one of the top rush defenses, and we were surprised that that he was able to run the ball effectively, averaging 6 yards a carry. The 56-yarder helps that, but it's still 6 yards a carry. Baker improvising his touchdown run, like you talked about, was something we hadn't seen him do as his first career rushing touchdown. So there were bright spots to this offense, but the turnovers did catch up to him, turning the ball over 5 times. It's funny. There's that stat a few weeks ago when San Francisco played Pittsburgh, and San Francisco turned the ball over all those times. They were the first team to win when turning the ball over at least that many times. Teams were 32 and 1 or something like that, and the 1 is the Browns tie against the Steelers last year in the home opener. So you could add another loss to that statistic, and anytime you turn the ball over that many times and still have a shot to win the game late. Obviously, that late interception with Dontrell Hilliard, the ball going off his hands. I don't know why you don't use Higgins in that situation. I know they're trying to get him back for being on the sidelines with injuries, so maybe Freddie thought that they didn't want a repeat of Antonio Callaway last week, where he came in and wasn't lining up correctly according to them, and drop passes at the goal line. But unfortunately, Hilliard did the same thing there at the end.
Yeah, and if they weren't going to play Higgins, my take on that is, why would you make Damian Ratley inactive? Why, he's been in on the offense. He's made some plays. Obviously he's been healthy for the most part. Why not have him active today? It's just another baffling decision by Kitchens. And I know he's a rookie head coach and he's learning, but you gotta be smart when it comes to decisions like that. If you're not going to play Higgins, play someone that's going to be able to get out there and provide something. If you're just going to have Higgins stand on the sidelines, that's just a waste of a roster spot when you only have 46 healthy guys. It's very interesting, and hopefully the media questions him on it. I didn't see anything post game that said otherwise. So very interesting decision there. But yeah, throwing it to Hilliard, I know there was the comment, well, if Duke Johnson was there, he would have caught that ball. I mean, hindsight's 2020. Duke Johnson's not here anymore. You can't nag on that. If Hilliard keeps struggling, obviously you find him a replacement, and hopefully Kareem Hunt's that replacement here in a few weeks. But these things happen. We took the loss, and you got to move on from it.
Seattle was bit by the injury bug pretty hard today without having their left tackle. Their right guard did not play as well. So we found ourselves in our situation like week 1 against Tennessee where they're missing a lot of offensive linemen. You thought that the Browns' defensive front could create pressure. They were able to do that. Myles Garrett had 2 more sacks. He now has 9 on the season. But what Tennessee did really well, and the Seahawks kind of followed that game plan today, is they consistently used extra linemen they brought in as eligible. They used multiple tight ends, and it was unfortunate to see Disley go down with an Achilles injury. He'll be out for the season. At least that's what's expected. And they used a fullback a little bit, kind of like San Francisco did on Monday night. So Seattle did a really good job of combating this defensive front that has created a lot of pressure, or at least trying to. But when you have Russell Wilson, who's able to roll the pocket, throw the ball on the run so well, you're not always going to get pressure that you're hoping with multiple linemen being out. So I thought they did a good job in that aspect, in getting as much pressure as they did, despite Seattle's game plan of using multiple alignment tight ends and having Russell Wilson to be able to roll out and move the pocket.
Yeah, I thought Brian Schottenheimer did a great job with the game plan, and losing Dwayne Brown and DJ Fluker, we all thought this is going to be a day where the Browns pass rush could capitalize on it. They did, like you said, for the most part. Garrett got 2 more sacks. He's now tied for the league with 9 with Shaq Barrett down in Tampa. They're on an incredible pace right now. And Demarius Randall got in on a sack too, on a good blitz against their left tackle. But yeah, Seattle did a great job of making up for the fact that they were missing 2 linemen. Like you said, they brought in an extra lineman, or they utilized the fullback, much like San Francisco did last week, and it helped them. It helped him be able to protect Russell Wilson for the most part. He did take 6 hits. He took some pretty nasty shots. The one that Burnett got called on the horse collar, that was pretty brutal. But yeah, Seattle did a great job, only in pass protection and as well in the running game, which opened things up for Chris Carson on the ground, who had a monster day.
Yeah, the run defense kind of continues to be a problem. They allowed 170 yards on the ground today. I thought to me, watching the game from where I was, it didn't show it. I didn't think that they had that many yards, but you could really tell down the stretch that they were able to gas this defensive front and get a little bit of chunk plays. And obviously that long run that Wilson had for the touchdown helped that endeavor. But I was surprised that the defensive backs played well for the most part, except for a few plays that really bit them. But not having Greedy Williams and Denzel Ward, hopefully this is the last game that we are missing those 2. Hopefully they're able to show up for New England, because you want to be completely healthy when you play New England, when you play any team, but especially New England. And if you're not at full strength, obviously Belichick does a great job in exploiting that. So hopefully this team can get healed up. This was the first week all season that all 53 players on the active roster practiced. Hopefully over the next 2 weeks that everybody can get healthy. Obviously, you have guys on IR like Kirksey and Njoku, whatnot, but hopefully all these players are able to get healthy, including Baker Mayfield, who we saw leave the sidelines, go back to the locker room in the third quarter, came back out. We saw him stretching out his hip. He said post game that it's really tender, it's really sore, but there's no way he was coming out of that game. So hopefully over the next couple weeks, now that we're heading into the bye week, everybody can get healthy. We can have a solid week of practice going into the New England game, and when that game comes around, everybody is good to go.
Yeah, just touching on the run defense real quick before we get to the secondary. I mean, coming in, they were giving up 151. They gave up 170 today. I don't understand what's going on there schematically, because the first few weeks they were doing pretty well. I mean, they shut down Gurley. They played well against Tennessee to a degree, and also against Baltimore. I thought they contained them really well. So hopefully, this bye week the coaches make some key adjustments and are able to improve aspects of the run defense, as well as trying to find ways to add more pressure, because outside of Myles Garrett, this defensive front, which was really hyped up during the offseason, has been lackluster outside of Garrett. As for the secondary, I agree. They really could have used Denzel and Greedy out there today. I mean, Lockett and Metcalf didn't get in the end zone, but they were getting chunk plays off of Carey and Mitchell and the rest of the secondary. So, you hope that Denzel and Greedy will be back. I mean, that'll be, I think, 6-7 weeks sitting on the sidelines not playing. New England's offense has been iffy the last couple weeks. They didn't look the greatest against the Giants, but they still have Josh Gordon. They still have Julian Edelman. They still have a plethora of running backs that can hurt you in a number of ways. So, and of course, they got the GOAT, Tom Brady. So, I do expect them all back. I mean, the fact that everybody was practicing this week makes me think that, they were giving them one more week. Of course, they get the bye week, but I would expect Ward and Greedy to definitely be back for the New England game.
Yeah, after they missed the Monday night game against San Francisco, I was completely on board with them just sitting through the bye week and getting healthy. Didn't want to re-aggravate anything, have any setbacks going into a team like New England, especially with, how, I'm not going to say how easy, but the schedule seems like it's going to lighten up after they play New England. I know they go to Denver, who shut out Tennessee today. They have Buffalo, who's done really well in this early part of the season after New England. So the schedule does seem lighter, but you want to be healthy during the stretch run, and hopefully those guys can get healthy, and especially Baker as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think, Baker, I know they're going to probably practice this week for a few days before they go away for the bye week, but I would honestly just let Baker rest. I mean, he has taken some shots. I mean, you could tell he's hurting. At one point, there was a shot on the TV. He was hobbling off the field, and so was Eric Kush, who I think got rolled up on during the game at one point, but he ended up staying in as well. So, get these guys healthy, because they got 10 weeks of football once they get back from the bye week. So get them rested up, because we got a big stretch run and a lot of football left. Obviously, we got some tough games out of the gate in the second half, but it's getting easier. This is why I'm staying optimistic about this team, just because I know the wins are coming, and I know that they're going to get this stuff together based on the conversation we had last week with Jared. Makes me think that they are getting this stuff fixed. They do know what's wrong. They are correcting it. It's just got to get the mental mistakes out.
Well, going into the bye week, and as we kind of prepare for New England, what to you is the Browns' biggest area of concern that they need to focus on heading into the bye week?
Just correcting the mental errors, the penalties, the forced turnovers, just the mental things. Like you've seen it today. The offense is starting to get back together. I think, I talked to Jared last week, and he, mentioned that they've been testing stuff. They feel like some games aren't as important. I mean, every game's important, especially when you're trying to make the playoffs. But, the Browns look like they were taking a few games lightly, testing stuff offensively. You've seen the Baltimore game. You've seen today against Seattle that, we could see the potential of this offense. So I think just correcting the mental errors, the penalties, they're on a record pace with penalties. The drops, hopefully these receivers and the backs are on the jugs machines a lot this week. Just try to correct those mental errors and, defensively, change up some stuff schematically, I think, to correct the run defense, as well as trying to find ways to get more pressure. Not specifically Myles Garrett, but guys like Ogunjobi, guys like Sheldon Richardson, Olivier Vernon, who's been somewhat lackluster since coming over from New York, and
did have the forced fumble today, though.
He did have the forced fumble. Devereaux Lawrence got on it. So, I do see the light at the end of the tunnel still. I know a lot of people are freaking out because we're 2-4, but all is not lost yet. We got New England coming off the bye. We got Buffalo. We got Denver, but we have Cincinnati twice. We have Pittsburgh twice. We have Miami. We have Arizona, Arizona's looking good so far. And then, of course, we have Baltimore again at the end of the season. The AFC North is still there for the Browns to take. It's just you got to clean up these mental mistakes and keep the rhythm flowing on offense, tweak some stuff on defense, get all our guys back, and I still see 8, 9, maybe even 10 wins out of this team. It's going to be tough to get to 10, but 8 or 9 is completely still there for the Browns and the potential playoff berth.
Yeah, I mean, if you win all your games in the division, you're probably going to get a playoff spot. So, and just for a little bit of scoreboard watching at this moment, Pittsburgh is up 14-0 on the Chargers right now. So they kind of jumped on Los Angeles a little bit early, but I'm not one for stealing radio bits, but I wanted to ask you, I asked you your biggest area of concern heading into the bye week. What would you say your panic level is being 2-4 going into the bye week with New England coming up the week after?
Not at all panicked. I expect this team to be ready to battle New England. They got up for the Baltimore game. They got up for the Rams game. They just made stupid mistakes down the stretch that ultimately cost them the game. And then I think they came to play today. I expect this team to be ready to go week in and week out from this point forward after the bye week. New England's tough. There's no doubt about it. That defense is the best in football. But I fully expect Kitchens, Monken, Wilkes, everybody on that staff and that team to come back from the bye week ready to go. And they're not going to lay down to New England. So I have no concerns at all. Do I expect us to beat New England? You'll find out in a couple weeks when we do our preview show. But I expect this to be a team that's not going to lay down to anybody. And Jarvis Landry last week, he said, maybe we're not as good as we thought we were. They got humbled these first 6 games. I expect them to come back and expect a better team. I expect it. I mean, there's too much talent on this team to win 4, 5, 6 games. I expect a lot more wins in the second half, and I think it's going to turn around. So my panic level is not there yet.
Yeah, I'm with you with that. I'm not panicked yet. Ask me, as we head into New England, if that's changed. Things can change during the bye week. I'm not insinuating any kind of coaching change or anything, but maybe they could add a player or two to this team. I think now would be the time to do that if you're going to do it with having the bye week. If they're going to add somebody, so we'll see how it turns out when we get ready for New England in a couple weeks, and That definitely should be the game of the week for sure. I'm with you. I'm not going to count the Browns out of any game. They are on paper one of the most talented teams in the NFL. So they have a chance to win every single time that they go out there, which is not something you could say about Browns teams of the last 18, 19 years or so. So this team definitely has the opportunity to win games, win lots of games. I think that in the second half of the season they're going to go on a nice winning streak. They do have those 3 games at home within 14 days. They have the Bills at home, and on Thursday night they have the Steelers, and then they have the Dolphins. So, those 3 games could be a quick turnaround for this team. Hopefully, they could win one of, if not both of these next 2 against New England and Denver. I know they're both road games, so the next home game isn't for a month, so they'd have to do a good job of getting ready and prepare for their opponents, getting things fixed, cleaned up, not letting the officials pile on to their own mistakes. So, the Browns don't need any help shooting themselves in the foot. They're doing perfectly fine on their own. But, we talked about the officials and piling on to that. Hopefully that changes as well. I would expect I tweeted during the game that the apology letter that the Browns are going to get from the NFL this week is going to be longer than War and Peace. But I would imagine a couple of people are going to get fined as well, including Baker from his post-game comments. But that's not something you could worry about from game to game. It's something you shouldn't have to worry about. Unfortunately for the Browns, they have had to. But if you play your own game, execute the way you need to, not turn the football over, make good play calls, be lined up where you're supposed to be, you should be able to be within every game and come out victorious in the majority of them. All right, Jack, as we get out here, did I forget anything else you want to discuss?
Just one question for you, and then I'll answer it as well.
Sure.
Do you expect Dorsey to make some kind of move over the next 2 weeks to do something to this roster?
I would imagine that there's something that he would do. I don't think he's going to stand pat. Don't ask. I'm not going to insinuate any certain positions, but if they want to maybe add somebody to help the run defense, whether that be a defensive tackle, just one that you could add to the rotation to help out. Maybe adding another defensive back, because they've dealt with the injuries. Maybe that would help out. Maybe another safety. Maybe an offensive lineman. I know that part is going to cost a lot. I don't see them adding any kind of wide receiver or running back. Maybe a tight end if they could find a deal somewhere. So there's certainly opportunity to add to this roster, but I'm not going to give away the farm for question marks in terms of if they're able to play and if they're in shape or whatnot, i.e. Trent Williams.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Defensive tackle actually wouldn't be surprising. Daniel Ekuale was diagnosed with a concussion about an hour before we recorded, so obviously they're going to need someone there. Maybe that opens the door for Chad Thomas to slide in, and maybe that opens the door for Jannard Avery to finally get some playing time. I doubt it, but it's a hypothetical. I would not be shocked if Dorsey makes a move. There's a lot of names out there. You see that the Browns aren't linked to anybody, but we know how stealthy Dorsey works, unless he gets caught on camera during the combine talking to Dave Gettleman. But I would not be shocked if he makes a move. What it is, couldn't even tell you, but we know Dorsey's always in the hunt to find talent. Whether it fits or not, that's left to be determined, obviously. But I wouldn't be shocked, though, if he does make something up here. Or not make something up, but makes a move here prior to the deadline to add something to this team.
Yeah, I would say if he does, it's not going to be a flashy move. I think it's going to be one that flies under the radar a little bit to add to this team in terms of adding depth to the current roster. All right, Jack, as we get out here, you guys can follow Jack on Twitter at JMcCurryCLE. You can follow me on Twitter at Anthony Jokey. I really want everybody to be paying attention to those two Twitter accounts on Tuesday. We have something launching that I hope you all enjoy. Be sure to look over at the 1085 Gridiron account as well. You'll see it there too. So that's all I'm going to tease about that. But as we get out here, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Google Play. With all that, most importantly, go Browns.